You ask how the influence of my grandparents and my mother has affected me as a religious educator. I have the First Communion certificates from my grandmother and my grandfather, both at the Parish Church of Lansing, which is St. Mary's now, St. Mary Cathedral, but they're from 1882 and 1887. My grandfather was a builder for churches, and my grandmother would often sing in the choir, sing solo at St. Mary's. In fact, when she died, someone came to the funeral home and told my mother that the only time her husband would ever go to church with her is when Catherine Sullivan would be singing. And so she had to come to pay her respects. My mother was an amazing teacher and taught at St. Francis de Sales. I had her in 6th grade, and she was incredible. And when I began teaching, after I graduated from Marygrove, she told me that to change the life of one child for the better through experience with me would make it all worthwhile, no matter how many years I might teach. But if I were to find that out, it's just frosting on the cake. And it was interesting that about 10 years ago, a student found my mother. He was a retired policeman from Detroit, but found her to tell her how much she had impacted his life when he had her in 6th grade, and that throughout his life he remembered what she had taught him and the calm she had offered him. That inspiration leads me to be an effective director of religious education here, and I feel it has also inspired my daughter to be a teacher. She teaches at Ignatius Prep School in Chicago. So it's kind of that full circle of connection of family and sharing the faith and sharing our education and our beliefs. What was it like growing up Catholic in Detroit? It was interesting because every parish had its own little neighborhood, and we kind of lived in that community. Those were the only people I know who went to the same school as I did. My mother was in the Altar Society. My father was a Sacred Heart Society as an usher and a KFC. So it was kind of this little ghetto, if you will, of Catholics that traveled together. I went to a Catholic college, Marygrove, and then I taught at St. Francis de Sales, right where I had gone to school, and then at Immaculata on the same property as Marygrove. And then I ended up at Our Lady of La Salette in Berkeley, which was close to where we were living at the time. When we moved out here, again, my father had graduated from the St. Mary Academy. My parents were both very active at St. Mary Church. We were married, my husband and I were married here, even though I was living in Detroit at the time. My master's program through Loyola really deepened my faith in an intellectual and in a spiritual capacity of sharing faith with the other people in my group, of coming out with a stronger conviction and an intellectual acceptance and a spiritual appreciation for the amazing, loving relationship that God invites us to. There are many, many things I appreciate about St. Mary Parish, but it's the people that always make things work. The parents who, in such incredibly busy lives, make this a priority, that they get their children here on a regular basis, that they're involved in the parent classes, that they support our community days, that they really are caring about that their children do receive a Catholic education in their faith and traditions. The people who are involved in all the different organizations, the KFC, the ladies, the people who work here are wonderful to be with. We laugh and we support one another. So for Mary Lou, Father Bill, Deacon Tom, Mary Underwood and Marita and Jenny, it's the people that surround us and give us life and support us on bad days and are there on good days to cheer us on.